Sounds good.
Hello and happy Dead Week, I guess they call it, between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. But at the same time, it allows us to catch up with everything we've been hoping to do. So that's what Andrea, Galvin, and I are doing today. We welcome you to this proposed Everyday Shamanism series. Andrea has developed this over several months now, and we've discussed it. And today we are going to share it, but it's only going to be one of many other teachings that we're going to pass along to you. And if you would like to have Andrea get in contact with you, you only need to let me know. I'll remind you later. And also to keep your eye out for more of these as they come along. We will be doing some more of them, possibly live. But today she has so much information she's willing to share with us here that we decided to tape this one. And so namaste, welcome, and Andrea, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk about some of this stuff because, you know, as it is for all of us, we're all in flux with all kinds of things, with the COVID and with ascension and all of that, and having to isolate. And so things are shifting and changing. What I want to do today is just give some basic background and historical information. And I have great shamanism, like that. It's my core. When I was a little kid and I was in a church where there was, you know, an old white man who was the father, and I had old white men in my life that were abusive. I was like, well, this is never going to work. So I kind of walked away from believing in any power greater than myself. I didn't have a higher power with that. I didn't trust human beings very well, but thank you, Creator. I trusted animals. I trusted my dog. I trusted my cat. I trusted animals. And what came and became my path was based on power animals. And I lucked out and, you know, moved to a place where it's called core shamanism, was just getting off the ground. Michael Harner had just opened up his center. The man that I ended up, he is a shaman, though he's very humble. Oh my God, if you say, are you a shaman? He's like, no, I just do what I'm supposed to do. Which is like, I get that, me too. Anyway, he taught me probably 90% of what I believe and practice in core shamanism. But what I want to share is that shamanism is 100,000 years old, that with indigenous tribes over time, the shaman, it's kind of like the medicine woman, but the shaman, well, the medicine woman, I think, probably worked between using plants and real healing, you know, as the doctor in the village. And the shamanism, or the shaman, worked it with spirit world and what we call ordinary reality. And so people, if they had a question or they were troubled about something and it was a spirit, or somebody was getting ready to pass, or a new baby was brought in, or there was something that they couldn't explain, they went to the shaman. And the shaman often danced and prayed, and often they would dance together. And it's interesting because in core shamanism, around power animals, I don't even hear anybody talking about this, but when you get a power animal, what we used to do in the old days, and I'm going to sound, you know, like when I was young, you know, the good old days, but in the good old days, when we were getting ready to work together in a circle, in a shaman circle, we danced our power animals. We danced our power animals and we sang our power animals, that the animal had And that was the very initial piece of before we would actually do the journey work or we would get into the heavy duty work. It was bringing in the energy of the animal and letting that animal be in our body. And it kind of reminds me of, I know in my Spanish and Mexican friends, like Day of the Dead stuff, where they have parties and they make the food for the person that's passed, and they're letting that energy be a part of them in this life. That's the same thing with animal energy. And every indigenous tribe since probably the beginning of time has had shamans that worked with animal spirit and plant and who knows what else. I mean, it was I was talking to some folks in our community, and I've seen the cave pictures where they have the outer space pictures, and I'm like, I'd look and I go, I'm not going there, but wow, that's kind of weird that they would draw that like 2,000 years ago. So
is there a way that you can tell what your power animal is, or is this something a shaman lets you know?
There are several ways that you can get a power animal. With the ascension, Aley, the thing that's so crazy to me is that some of this stuff is shifting and changing. I had somebody that came through and said, I think my power animal is, I think she said a dolphin. And I thought, I can relate. In fact, Danny Shea and I laughed about this one time. I said, I really wanted a dolphin or a whale because I lived where the ocean was. My animal's a bear. And and the bear that came through said, I'm a black bear, but I'm white. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? I can't polar bear. But it wasn't.
It wasn't. Okay.
No. And it said, you are very ungrateful. I have been with you since you were born, and I will be with you until you die. And you want a different animal? And you haven't even explored who I am?
Okay.
Yeah, it was very powerful.
Very powerful, yeah.
And the way that my power animal came through was through a journey with a drum, and several of us did it. It was in kind of a workshop. If you do that, and I did it in England, that people that they knew about shamanism, they wanted a power animal. We did a drumming circle, and several of them didn't get their animals, and I was able to go and get their animals. But the weird thing, being in England, we were closer to Africa than we were to North America. And I had African animals coming, and I'm like, wow, I've never, one person, a monkey jumped in my arms, and it was a baby monkey, and I'm like, what the heck? But I had to like, and the way that with that, the way that you bring the animal in, and this is true with soul retrieval stuff too, is you would blow through into the heart chakra area. That's not how it's working now. And
the shift, all kinds of shifts. Yeah. So we need to be open to the idea that because everything is shifting, we may find out our animal or any other thing on our journey in a different way than might be expected.
Well, and my belief in core shamanism, there is an animal that is assigned. I didn't understand guides and all of that at that point.
Okay. Yep.
My bear has equal footing with every one of the guides that I have. And I have some pretty powerful guides at this point that I'm now aware of and working with. But I've also had other animals come through. We did a workshop one time with Broom, my first teacher. And the woman that I was working with, she was really new, and she brought through a porcupine for me. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with a porcupine? I didn't know very much about porcupines. I actually thought that they threw their needles at that time. Well, I also am involved in 12-step program. I work as a counselor in that area. And, but I also go to meetings, and I went to a meeting and there was this one guy who I now, oh my God, I understand that he is a teacher. One of those people that you'd rather not have teaching you, but oh my God, the things that I learned, what he brought me through shamanically was, I got some powerful tools as a result of having to interact with him. Well, he came in drunk and he sat down right next to me and he moved his chair so that he was like encroaching on my personal space.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of this meeting. I have to get out of here. You know, I was freaking out. And Bear came. Well, I said, Bear, help me. And Bear said, you have a porcupine. And I'm like, oh, and it's not, a porcupine doesn't stay with me, but.
Came in when you needed him. Yeah.
And porcupine. And when you get an animal, you learn everything you can about them. Everything. How they are in their community, all of that, their lifespan, where they go, how they make their, you take all of that in because ultimately there are lessons for you. Well, I had done enough research on porcupine and I knew there were different kinds, and I knew that the African porcupine had really long quills, like 2 or 3 feet. So I thought, okay, well, porcupine, I'm bringing in African porcupine. If I'm going to bring in a porcupine, I need a porcupine. And I knew that they didn't throw their quills. And I needed this man to back up. So I brought in the African porcupine and I closed. And all of a sudden, it's the weirdest thing when you start really working with power animals, because you become them. And I could feel its face and the whiskers. And I mean, that really is what happens.
Yeah, powerful.
There's all kinds of things that, Well, anyway, my porcupine brain said, just open your quills. And anything that backs into a quill is going to back away really quick because it hurts.
Right.
I opened the quills and they were about 2.5 to 3 feet wide. And he was sitting on my right side. As soon as I opened those quills, he got really uncomfortable. He moved his chair the length of what the quills were.
Wow.
And then partway through the meeting, he just got up and he left. And I thought, well, I'll be damned. That is pretty interesting.
It sure is.
That animal and that woman that was very unsure of herself, spirit allowed her to bring that through, and it was exactly what I needed. And that's my relationship with power animals. You know, it's so funny. People that know me a long time know that Bear is, and it's so cute, but they bring me like teddy bears, and I'm like, oh my God, if you knew how fierce Bear is not a teddy bear. I always say thank you, and then usually some little kid will come along, and I can go, here, you want a teddy bear? Gift it to somebody else.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, well, and in a later class, I'm going to talk more about power animals. Okay. Because there's some other stuff that I'm not sure about, but it's greater than just the animals that are on this planet, I think. So I got Spirit's working with me, and I can't really say things until I get more information. But so anyway, and the thing is that the shamans kind of set the morality for the community, the staying in integrity. The shaman was held to high integrity and maintained high integrity, and it kind of kept the high vibration of the whole community up. And that's hundreds of thousands of years that this has been going on.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. In the past, shamans were charged with the physical and spiritual well-being of the tribe. And the way I see shamans, it's like facilitators. They connect we all have within probably everything that we need, but we don't necessarily have access to it. And shamans, you know, we use our third eye and bring information in that one. And then when a shaman hits it on the head, we know psychically. We get the goosebumps, you know, when someone's reading us, and that it's like right on the money. You know, you have goosebumps like 2 inches high, where you're like, whoa, I think that's right on the money, because you actually get a physical.
Yeah,
that's true with the shamanism too.
Wow.
And as things connect for people, they have a visceral response to it. And for me, at working in the shamanic path, you know, I was raised Catholic, and that whole doubting Thomas, I'm a doubting Thomas. It's like, you know what, I need now in mediumship, we're like, I need evidence. You need to show me evidence. Well, I kind of feel that way about shamanism too. It's like, but the coincidences and synchronicities are really little mini miracles.
Right.
And that's creator revealing creator.
Okay.
And they have.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
And the whole thing, and I'll talk about gratitude lists and all that other kind of stuff in a later time. But all of that is highly spiritual and high vibrational energy.
Sure.
We are responsible for maintaining our high vibration. And it's really hard. We just came through 2 years of every day being, you know, ripped right down. Yes. But we're beyond that now. And so there's a whole lot of ways. And the way I think about it, and this is one of the tools. When I think about my health in any way, shape, or form, or balance or energy, I think physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. If I hit those 4 realms, and the cool part is if I'm kind of low, like physically, like you've been under the weather physically,
it's hard to do anything. Yeah.
But girl, with those stuff, girl, we're just having a conversation. But what you're doing with your Reiki, your body's needing, you know.
It is. It's desperate for it. Yep.
But your spirit and the Reiki, you're high vibrational energy with that. So if I have 1 or even 2 areas where I'm kind of low, if I'm emotionally or mentally, like I hear somebody died, or, you know, I have a worry or something, the thing that I know to do is go to the other 4 categories. Right. Into the vibration of that, and then take a look and say, okay, what do I need to do to bring my vibration up? Yep. And the whole thing with soul retrieval and all of that, it's about vibration and the giving and getting energy from situations, but also people. We all know people that, oh my God, you know, I spend an hour with them and I feel like, you know, they ring you. Or they ring you all your energy. Yeah. If I was full of air, they just plugged me in and they sucked every ounce of energy, air energy, and I'm now like a deflated balloon. It's like I'm exhausted. And so the awareness of the energy and how we use energy is really at the core of shamanic practice. And we'll talk in a couple other sessions about how to do some of that. I'm looking at my notes here. Sure. I know for my own path, I needed to have a spiritual piece, but not a religious piece. Right. I figured out when I was a little kid that the adults were not making good choices for me. I didn't have the cognitive and the cognitive maturity brain-wise, right, to be able to make good choices. But I was probably 2 years old when I thought, I may not be great at this, but I'm better than what these adults are doing.
Wow.
And
Wow.
well, and that served me for a while, but it actually was an untruth. It kept me alive, but
Mhm.
it was untruth. And so part of my training has been to take a look at the misbeliefs that I have that kept me alive,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
need to be shifted.
Absolutely.
One of the ways for me as someone who has some gifts in this area, when I meet someone that has almost like amnesia about parts of their lives, like they can, like maybe they can't remember, oh, I can't remember, you know, who my friends were or where I went to school with, or what house did we live in? When we have like those little spaces where we don't have memory,
Mhm.
in my belief system, the soul energy that we all are born with, though it can be compromised even at birth, that energy has not gone away, but it kind of shifts out, and
Okay.
and we go into kind of like a numb or amnesia. We go into a mode where we can stay in our body and stay on the planet, but we're like checked out for that.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so when we have amnesia or like bits and pieces, which is as we age gets to be a little dicey too, because then as we age, you know,
Yeah.
there are parts in our brain that you know, I take the kind of vitamin supplements that I need in order to keep my brain working properly. But
Hmm.
what I'm talking about is, and I actually had this when I work shamanically with someone, I don't ever ask them to do anything that I haven't already done. I have been restored because of shamanic work.
It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the bringing back of that soul energy,
Is
I think,
that is that part of soul retrieval, or is that something different? That is
no,
the soul retrieval? Okay.
yeah, and it's bringing back a little tiny piece. The thing is that energy is just outside the person. It isn't
Uh-huh.
like it took off 1,000 miles away. It's just outside, and it needs to be invited back in.
Okay.
And you need to really celebrate it and
Hmm.
protect it.
Right.
And when there's a soul retrieval, I think I've used this in talking with you before, but when if I tune into a soul, it can look like Swiss cheese
Right.
when there's a whole lot of those
A lot of
souls.
holes. Yep.
And if there was trauma when a person was young, the Swiss cheese holes started really young, and so that energy stepped out, so you kept going that. And as we bring it back in, we kind of fill in. We become more like American cheese. There's no holes left anymore. But we
You
have,
know, that's very interesting, because we always say that when such and such happens, then I became whole. And I know it's a different word. We got an HOLE and a WHOLE, but the pronunciation is the same. So,
it
yeah.
is, and it literally is the soul filling in and becoming whole.
Right. Right. Those pieces that were broken are restored. Kind of like
Yes,
that the Japanese when they pour the gold on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's so wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
And as you, like, as I watch, as people fill in more and more and more, I think I shared maybe on the first time we talked about some of this stuff. Literally, people's faces change.
Wow.
Their
Wow.
whole being changes.
Huh.
I look younger now, which that's not saying much, but I look younger now than I probably looked at 40.
I
Because
have the same, feeling
at
about myself.
40,
Yeah.
yeah, at 40, I was just in the middle of this process
Right.
of getting those pieces back and doing the healing. And when we hold on like tight-fisted to the belief system that kept us alive, and then we
Mhm.
have to open our hand, it's like,
Right.
wow, I have to trust something that I don't know if it's totally trustworthy.
Right.
However, Bear has always been trustworthy.
Mhm. Yep.
Bear has gotten in my face many, many times and, you know, brought me back around, but I have never been in a pinch where if I ask Bear to be there, Bear is absolutely there. And even some of the shamanic work,
Uh-huh.
I'd find
That's
myself,
great.
yeah, in a
Yeah.
situation and I'd be like, oh man, I can't do this. And Bear go, I got this. It's okay. You can just step back and I'll
Yep.
take care of it.
Yep.
And then when we're done, we finish. And you know, that's always been in the journey mode, is the way
Right.
I work. Now I just talk to Bear, and Bear's around and there. It's
You
shifted.
have more of an equal relationship now. He was your teacher and now you're, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Well, and it's interesting in the early days, and I can remember when this happened the very first time. I did a journey, and Bear actually ate me. He took me apart and he ate me.
Hmm.
I didn't feel afraid or anything. And then he shat me out. But he shat me, you know, like how when an owl eats the mouse and then it throws up the little pelt.
Yeah.
And everything is in that little fur pelt to put that, you could literally put that mouse back together. Nothing's broken or anything, but it's cleaned off and ready to be like reassembled. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
And when I said to Brew, I said, Brew, I had the weirdest experience. I don't feel afraid. I don't feel traumatized. But Bear ate me. And he goes, whoa. He said, that does happen. And it happens a lot. But we don't ever talk about that, because when people are and I'm saying it now, so anybody that's thinking, oh, I'd like to get a power animal. And then if you get a power animal, I want to be eaten. So they're like,
It's
nah.
more of a metaphoric. That's all you have to say. It is.
Yeah,
It's just a metaphor.
Yes, yes, yes. But I mean, that's the level of
Right.
trust and understanding that I have
Sure.
between Bear
And
I.
talk about integration. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Well, then the next journey that I had, the other thing, when you do a journey to the lower level, you're not supposed to bring anything back. Bear gives me bear paws. And and the way your signal is with the drum beat, you know, there's a drum beat and it's at the rhythm of the heart that you journey down. And then when it's time, the fast drumming brings you back. And here I am in the lower world. Bear has just literally, my hands have become bear paws. And my bear he says he's a white, and she shifts, but says he's white, but he's actually kind of creamy. And he actually exists on Prince Edward Island. I didn't even know that these bears
wow. Okay.
But they are real bears. And I found that out like about 4 years after Bear came to me. But anyway, it was time for me to come back. You know, the drum was shifting. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to bring anything back from the lower world. And I got these bear paws.
Yeah.
What do I do? You know, I can't cut my hands off. What do I do? And I'm like, well, I'm just going to come back. And I came back and I said, Brew, I said, Bear's really like putting me through the paces with this. I said, I have bear paws. And he said, what? I said, I have bear paws. He gave me bear paws. Said, okay, Andrea, you're going to be using your hands for healing.
Okay.
And that's what happened. I learned, I haven't done it in many years, but I can scan a body. And if there was an organ that was not working well, I would literally feel the outline of it. And I had to actually go and learn some anatomy and physiology, because I would feel an organ on the palm of my hand and I would be able to identify what the organ actually was.
Yeah.
Wow. And also I learned that disease has an energy, and I can show people how to do. There's a whole lot of stuff that I now know I can show people how to do. But you can scan a body and literally, and it works with animals as well as humans. With the scan, if you feel the disease, I literally could scoop, well, there's a whole process to it. Like you have a window open and water, there's a lot of stuff to it, but you can literally take that energy out and then you brush it out of the window.
Huh? Yeah, like a removal of it.
It's
yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then I would always have to do some work with my hands afterwards to get the energy
Clear
off
it out.
and
Yeah.
shift it back, and to go back to human hands. Though nowadays I feel like I have really big hands on Zoom when I look. I always feel like,
You have
"Wow, your hands-"
paws. You have
Yeah,
bear paws. Yeah.
bear paws. Yeah, yeah. As a kid, I needed to have a power greater than myself, or a God, or something that worked, and creator worked. And I'm grateful. It's like the great I am, or the creator or God or whatever we're going to call it, really does have us in full view and full love and energy. And then for me, my guides just like magnify all of that. And I've been led along, and a lot of times I don't even know I'm being led along
Sure.
the path. A couple of things about shamanism. One of the things that I've been taught, and it's kind of a conflict sometimes, I am not supposed to be like putting out like a open for business sign. People that come.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to be advertising, which is why I'm not ever going to do a YouTube. It'll always be right now through email. Where I used to live, people would literally come, they knew me. I was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And people that knew that I did the work would show up and do it that way. I know that it's about energy and using energy and teaching people to use energy. And so, people, I am working with some folks. And the thing is, I'm getting better at working with people. Some people say, oh yeah, I want that. They have no idea what they're getting in for. And I now have a bunch of questions that I ask, and I want to be sure the person's really ready to do the work.
Sure.
One of the ways that a person, if you're feeling like, wow, I'd like to do some soul retrieval stuff, I highly recommend going to Codependence Anonymous or Adult Children of Alcoholics, because the spiritual basis of those programs, it's like it's a way for a group of people to start to access that energy, because you're accessing that part of the energy. If you can handle vulnerability and being kind of open and raw, because that's what happens. And
a lot of people don't want that. Yeah. And they move away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
True.
they think they want it.
They think they do, but it's too painful. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they read a book on shamanism and they're like, okay, man, I'm ready to go. It's like, I've been doing this for like 35 years, and I'm still like
still learning.
A neophyte. Yes.
Yeah.
And shamans have been doing it for thousands of years, and in their community are like 80 years old, and they've been doing it since they were little kids. So I have a hard time. Well, you know what it is, and it's a 12-step thing: money, property, prestige.
Yeah.
If I'm putting out a single in any way, shape, or form for spiritual work, and I'm worried about how much the money is, or what I'm going to gain from it, or am I going to be famous? And that on YouTube, it's really important. We are all workers, and we're here to serve the community. We're not here to be stars.
That's right.
And as soon as we move into the energy of being a star, you can watch it. Spirit will go, oh no, and all of a sudden, the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Doesn't take long either. Really doesn't.
No. Well, and I think it's because of the ascension energy.
Yeah.
Anybody that's watching this is a light worker. There's no doubt in my mind.
No doubt. Yeah.
We all came here for a reason. Yes,
You were.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
Some of the tools of shamanism, there's sacred songs, there's different kinds of smudges. We know about using sage, but there's something called osha root, it's bear root. You can use lavender, sweetgrass, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So at some point, one of the things I want to just do a little piece on that, and what some of the different herbs and how you combine
How you can
herbs.
use them. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that. Drums and rattles are really, that a drum is called the horse that carries you to non-ordinary reality. And the drum or a rattle is what's set, and it's a heartbeat, and it's
Yep.
what can drive a journey. Though with us being on Zoom and stuff like that, I actually have a couple of friends that were in the original shamanic circle. And I said, can you guys like do some work with me and see, if somebody drums, can see if the other person can journey, does that work? So we're
Thinking about it. Okay.
yeah, we're being called to do it in different ways. What I would love is to get a working circle together.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and I can the little groups the little practice groups that I'm a part of. I'm just a part of them, but we are working together as a group beyond what any of us would have ever thought.
Yep.
It's profound what's happening, and we'll get to the end of a practice session and say, oh, I don't really know what happened, but that was profound. I mean, the energy is raised up way higher than.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything. I want to talk just really briefly about the levels for journeying the lower world, middle world, and upper world. And the core shamanism that I learned, there is a lower world, and that's where animal, plant, mineral, the mineral world is. And it's where I most often do my work. The middle world, and I think there's some really interesting shifting and changing because of the ascension. The middle world is like you and I right now, but in non-ordinary reality, you get to come in a journey and look at what's happening in our world, in our everyday world. But when you're looking with a shamanic eye, and especially if you're traveling with a power animal, you see things in way different ways.
Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you do.
And then there's upper world, and that's, guides, master teachers, probably, aliens, angels. It's all that level of it. And I have worked in that area, but I'm most comfortable working with the lower world, and everybody finds their level of comfort when they're doing journey work. There's no requirement for how it is.
So that might explain what happened to me during my after my attunement yesterday, my Reiki attunement. I was seeing all kinds of things, but this was the very first time that I saw little fairies working on my heart, like just like using a small little hammer, and I could see them, and it was beautiful. It really was.
Yes,
I've never seen
yes.
anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is so cool. Well, that's your body may be feeling, kind of, but
Yep. They're working on it. They're
Yeah.
saying, okay, you started it. We'll help you now. Yeah.
And you said you had some shamanic experiences before.
Yeah.
What were they? Just,
Well, when I was at a powwow, I went to this powwow back in '92, and we were walking around and doing all kinds of things. And all of a sudden I felt this tremendous sense of unity. And, I think that's always a wonderful experience. But And I found out my dad passed right then. And
Yeah,
so I was with him, and so are all these other people have helping him to transition. And sometimes that's how you find out when things happen. They just happen and you don't know why. And then you find out right at that time something else was happening.
I just
So
got
yeah.
super
Uh-huh.
huge goosebumps. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Oh, I mean, I was certainly upset and so on, but I had let him go weeks before and said, if you need to go, you need to go. But just the fact that he left while I was at that spiritual place that made it so
yeah,
much yeah.
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 That's
So
very cool. Well, and once you, for me, I don't like separate this stuff out.
right.
It's all a
Just all
part.
what it is. Yep.
My
Yep.
friends just know, okay, what do you think, Andrea, from your, what are you getting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
It's
just,
all the same. It comes from source. It comes from the divine energy. And that's when I realized that, as I let this energy come into me and felt so safe and warm, and all this beautiful flowing of energy I could feel throughout my whole body. And I said, in my mind, it was like, this is your rebirth that you've been waiting for so long. We're giving you that affirmation that you've always had this, but we're just getting it started for you again, because it had run out of steam or whatever it was. It was just
yes,
such a
yeah.
affirming feeling. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think of it, it's sort of like when Bear ate me up.
Yep.
It's like a retooling. We get
It is.
retooled.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
Absolutely. Mhm.
And the whole Reiki thing, that I actually I did uh well, I did one Reiki class and then I tried to do another one. And because of my bear paws, and
Uh-huh.
the Reiki master was actually a friend of mine. And I said, Paul, I'm really having a hard time. I said, because every time I go to do anything like with the energy, my paws get in the way. And he goes, Andrea, you're not supposed to be a Reiki person. You're
Uh-huh.
just supposed to go with the flow
Go
with,
be who you are supposed to
yeah.
be. Yeah.
But the man that I was seeing, and I love him to this day, and he's on the other side, and he comes all the time to me now. He's actually probably one of my helpers,
Sure. Yeah.
my guides. He was doing the Reiki too at that point, and I was
Uh-huh.
really sick. I couldn't go to the class because I was really sick, and I was sound asleep. And um, it was right at the time that Paul was having the class do distance Reiki.
Hmm.
And
Oh.
literally,
Okay.
I felt John come into my heart,
Hmm.
and it woke me up from a sound sleep. And I was running the temperature and all that stuff. And I thought, oh, what was it? I went, oh my God, John. I knew it was John's energy, and he
Yep.
sent love and healing to me in a
Hmm.
powerful way. And I would send him
Right.
energy the way I send, and
The
he
way
would,
you send. Yeah.
yeah,
Everybody's different. Yeah.
yes, yes.
And that's
And
what Larika had told me. My teacher told me, I want you to know that it's not going to be this way maybe every time. So don't be disappointed. Even if it doesn't seem like it's there, it's still there. And
yes,
because she said a lot of people give up and because they don't see what they saw the first time. And it's just transitory. And it's almost like having being enlightened one day, or having this aha experience, and you think, oh good, I'm enlightened now, but that's only for the moment. You have to continue to work on it. It doesn't just come and stay. It
well, and
comes and
allow
goes.
the process to
Right.
unfold. That's the
Mhm.
same with soul retrieval.
Right. Yep.
It's like the energy comes in, and sometimes there's very profound things that happen, and it's kind of exciting. And when we get
Yeah.
those hits, it's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
or like with the group that I do the psychic and the practices with. When we have one of those sessions where all of us have like goosebumps and my hair feels like it's standing on end, it's like it's a rush.
Sure. Sure.
And it's
But it can't stay there.
no,
Yeah. Yeah. We wouldn't be able to live in this world.
right,
Right.
right. And so allowing for the ebb and flow of that,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
if people have questions, I know I have a whole other set of stuff that I want to do in the next class, and I'd like to record that too. And then we'll, I can't think of the woman's name now, but oh my God, she's a wonderful, she's a shaman and she works in sound healing. And she's been doing it as long as I have. And she does core shamanism. I don't know who she was with, but it was at the same time.
Okay.
It was,
Wow.
so I want to invite her and anybody else that's doing sound. I'd also like to do something with animals.
Okay.
Because one of the things with the second teacher that I had, when an animal crosses our path in an unusual way, that's the creator revealing something really important to us. And I want to talk about animal stuff. And, you know, I don't want to talk about or say right now some of the stuff that I have an awareness of, but it's kind of cool. And I'd like to invite some people and maybe Kim and a few people that work with animals. And
yeah, that'd be awesome.
We do healing with the animals, but the acknowledgement of animals as very high sources of spirit. I actually see them as high spiritual beings. And so to, you know, our little cuddly dog that, you know, we cuddle with in bed, but also the spirituality of that whole energy, that. And I'm sure other people have some really great stories. One quick story. My son, he's in his 40s now, but I think he was in his 20s and he was up at UMass Amherst. And I get a call, it's like around midnight, and he said, Mom, something weird just happened. And I said, well, what? And I'm thinking, you know, you should call the police or something. He goes, something just jumped on my bed. And I said, what? He said, yep, something jumped on my bed and walked across the bed and laid down. He said, I think it's Julius, which was our little dog.
Oh.
I said, cool. He said, he's still here.
He's not leaving yet. Yeah.
Just know that he's there to give you comfort. He goes, well, I was asleep. I said, well, just know, and my son is very gifted.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just said, just know that he loves you. But as we hung up, I thought that was the first time that animal spirit literally showed itself where, you know, he said his feet, I saw him walking and then I saw the indentation where he laid and he's still laying there. And he said, I feel like I'm kind of crazy. I said, just go back to sleep. It's all okay. He
comes every night.
He might. I actually think at that point that my son was having some doubts and he was at college and I think he was starting to mess around with alcohol and drugs.
Probably. Yeah.
And spirit will sometimes go thump.
Yep.
No, you don't have to do that. That's a
I'm here to remind you that you have a choice. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what better than your own little dog that you trust, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah. So, and one last little thing. I've been asking my guides and helpers for physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, how to raise vibration. And it's just one little thing, but it made me laugh, but I thought, you know what? I'm not actually doing this. Spirit said, eat the rainbow, stay away from beige.
Absolutely.
And I thought,
I just got that message yesterday. I kept thinking about orange, and I'm not an orange person. I'm a blue person. And we had a conversation, and that's when Larica said, yeah, eat an orange or eat some carrots, or you're asking for it. And yes, the whites and the beiges, they're the ones to stay away from, like rice and bread and crackers and things like that. Yep. And it will elevate you. It will elevate your vibration.
Well, and we are responsible for our vibration.
We are.
So
Yeah.
if I'm going over to see somebody or I'm interacting with somebody that's low vibration and I keep going back, that's the definition of insanity, going back.
Right.
over.
Absolutely. Yes.
If I
Yeah.
keep doing that and then I go, oh man, like, I feel depressed, blah, 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 blah. It's like, hello.
Doing it to yourself. Right.
Physical,
Absolutely.
mental, we are
Yep.
responsible for high vibrational activity. And there's a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Music
Well,
wise,
uh-huh.
Hamilton, the show
Uh-huh.
Hamilton. I've been listening to both, it's a double CD. I've been listening to that. And when we do the music part, there's a whole thing about like tuning in different
Yep.
tuning and
Yes.
how they shift energy and all of that.
Energy lift you or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. I went to see Hamilton a couple of years ago, and before I went to see it, I stopped at a Starbucks I used to go in, and they always had it playing. And I told the barista, I said, I'm going to see this, and she said, oh my God, you're so lucky. She said, this keeps me alive, the vibrations and the way that this brings me up. And she works in a stressful environment when you're always working, making coffee all the time. So yeah, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree.
The
Yep.
intricacies of the music and the words.
And the words. Yep.
Finding during this COVID stuff, there's genius in those words.
There
I
is.
feel like he
Yep.
channels them.
I know.
Cool.
He's fabulous. He's a fabulous person. He
Yeah.
is.
So we'll be talking about keeping vibration up
Good.
and all of that too. So anyway, thank you. Oh my God. And you're looking divine, my dear. You look good in that
Oh, well,
blue.
thank you. Trying to keep warm in this cold Pacific Northwest craziness. So
Yeah.
we will plan on probably having one of these once a week until we're done the series. But please keep your eye out for them. They will be taped, but once we go live, we will let you know also a few days ahead of time. So if you want to join us and ask questions, you can.
Yes.
Thank
And
you
if
so
people
much.
have questions, they can
put it on the chat. Yep.
Yeah. And we'll
Absolutely.
address them. Sounds
We
good.
will.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Andrea. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was
Beautiful
very
job. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks
Okay.
everybody for coming by. Bye-bye. Hold on, I gotta stop the, there we go. Video. No, that isn't it. Stop recording. Okay.